Welcome back, my intelligent friends, to Tea and Lit. In today's video, we're going to be going over 5 tips to get through William Shakespeare. But before we get into it, I just want to say happy winter solstice. I'm so glad it is December 21st because starting tomorrow, the days are going to start getting longer and spring will be on its way, and I cannot wait for spring 2021. All I'm dreaming about is my garden, my vegetable garden. I have reviewed my seeds. I've made about 12 garden plans already that I will still be perfecting and changing before it's time to start planting. But I am just tickled pink that today is the solstice and tomorrow spring will be on its way in. I'm very excited for spring 2021 and I hope you guys are too. But let's get into today's video. It has absolutely nothing to do with gardening and everything to do with Shakespeare. Alright, so these are my top 5 tips. They are not in necessarily the correct order, I don't think. I just sort of threw them down onto paper. So please don't take them as in order. They're just there, okay? Let's do this. Number 1 is to read with an audiobook. So on Audible, I have the Folger Shakespeare Library, a couple of their dramatic renditions of the Shakespeare plays, and it makes it so much easier to get through Shakespeare when you can associate different characters with different voices, and the actors do such a phenomenal job with communicating Shakespeare's words. So that would be my number 1 tip. I think that is actually legitimately my number 1 tip. The rest of them are not in order. My tip number 2 is that Shakespeare plays are not meant to be read. They're actually meant to be watched and performed. So go to a performance. If you have the opportunity to go to a Shakespeare play, then do so. The Chicago Shakespeare Theater is phenomenal. You've heard me talk about them before. I stand by that. Also, you can watch movies. I know the BBC has done several movies of Shakespeare plays, but to do like a direct translation of the Shakespeare play and read along with it if you can. It again makes it so much easier to follow because you don't have to necessarily keep track of all of the early modern English and can focus on characters and what's going on in the world. 3 is to choose a play that interests you. I cannot stress this enough. In November we read Pericles. I did not care for it at all. If it was my first Shakespeare play, I probably would never touch Shakespeare again. I'm not gonna lie to you. I love Othello. Julius Caesar wasn't great, but it wasn't bad. It was fun to learn about some of the things surrounding Julius Caesar, but I'm looking at my Shakespeare shelf right now. But choose a play that interests you. So Midsummer Night's Dream I know is a favorite for a lot of people. Othello is my favorite. Romeo and Juliet is a favorite for people. I disagree, but that's fine. So find one that is in line with a genre that you like and choose wisely. Next up is to read a scene-by-scene synopsis. So SparkNotes has like synopses. I don't know if it's act by act or scene by scene that they have, but if you can read the synopsis and then read the scene, it's again going to help you get into what's going on and you're not going to be so in the weeds with Shakespeare. You're going to go straight to the point of what are the plot points that I need to be mindful of when I read this. And then the 5th one is to be mindful of how these lines are pronounced. So a lot of Shakespeare is an iambic pentameter, and so he'll have like a line and then a comma and then the next line. I don't mean a line like for characters, I mean like legitimately a line. So read them out loud that way. Be very mindful of the punctuation. Use those pauses for commas and periods and it'll get you kind of in the rhythm of Shakespeare plays and kind of how he's speaking. The other thing that I didn't write down but kind of goes along with this is read them often. The more Shakespeare you read, the easier Shakespeare gets. And the more you kind of develop an understanding of the language. It is hard. All the these and thous is difficult to read because we don't speak that way anymore. But if you can get into the routine of Shakespeare, reading a Shakespeare play a month with us, if that's what you want to do, you'll start to adjust and get used to what all of the different vocabulary is and how they speak a little bit differently than we do. But yeah, my number one tip, I think, is the easiest tip, and that is to read along with the audiobook. That is how I started with Shakespeare, and it's still a way that I get into Shakespeare. So that would be my number one tip. These are my 5 tips to get into William Shakespeare. I think everybody should read Shakespeare. It's phenomenal because he's just so raw and honest and real. And I think sometimes if we read Shakespeare, it can frame our worldview, which I don't know if that's a good thing now that I say that out loud. Thank you so much for watching. Happy winter solstice, and I'll see you guys tomorrow. Bye.